It's amazing, you have these massive glowing pieces of steel and there's a little guy in front of them, These people are real heroes, They never get talked about. But these are the people that make our whole society work. And I feel passionately about them. It's a very important thing to me.
Welcome to the Viewfinders Photography Podcast, where I uncover the thoughts of some of the best photographers in the world. I'm your host, Graham Dargy, coming to you from Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland. I feel like I say this every week at the moment, but today's guest is one of my favourite photographers, Monty Rakusen, who specialises in shooting heavy industry, things like steel mills, nuclear power stations, coal mines, airplane factories and other amazing places. We'll talk to Monty in a minute, but first, how's things? Pretty good here. I had a little photography job last week for a company north of Aberdeen up in Peterhead. That was great. Some PR shots, team shots, welders, things like that. And at the end of last week, we had a few days away in Glasgow as a family, which was great. So we did loads of stuff, museums, science centre, going out for brunch, but probably my favourite bits revolved around roller skating. We went to a really cool little roller skating shop called Fifth Blocker and a roller disco called Roller Stop with my daughter. So good times all around and definitely feeling refreshed. How about you? What have you been up to? I love it when listeners reach out. Just the other day, I got a comment from Andy Wayne on Instagram, who's a brilliant wildlife photographer. So I really appreciate those kind of interactions and seeing listeners' photography as well. So you can find me on Instagram at Viewfinders Podcast, and also check out the Viewfinders website to find all the previous episodes. And if you join the Viewfinders newsletter, you'll even get a copy of my ebook, 3 Steps to Better Photographs. Okay, on to this week's episode. Monty Rakusen specializes in photographing industry, engineering, science and energy, creating unique images that really stand out. Monty works collaboratively with clients and syndicates his pictures through image libraries like Image Source and Getty. He's created a library of over 12,000 images of the absolute highest quality, which are used in a variety of ways. You've probably seen some of Monty's pictures somewhere. Commercial and industrial photography has been a big part of my career, and I've always looked up to Monty's work, which is so immaculate, technically spot on, but always retains a warmth and personality that really connects the viewer and humanises some big ideas. When you look for inspiration, you look at the best, and there's nobody better at this than Monty. We talk about Monty's career, how it's changed over the years, how he builds pictures, his editing workflow, and much, much more. Before we start, I want to apologise for the sound quality on this episode, especially the second half. It's just a tech problem. It was my fault, but I've done the best I can to clean it up. So I hope you can bear with it. Stick with it, and you're going to hear the thoughts of a hugely experienced photographer who's just the best at what he does. Here's my conversation with Monty Rakusen. Hi Monty, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and I'm very honoured to be here. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I've been asking you to do it for a long time. The reason, I've been so keen to have you on, for me as a working commercial photographer, I so admire your work. You're just so good at creating those images that communicate industry, technology, ingenuity, inventiveness, the scale of the industry as well, aspiration, expertise and craftsmanship, but always with humanity and empathy in the heart of the image.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it really takes the work to the next level. So technically it's very, very good, clean and tidy. But yeah, it's the humanity that I think that really takes it over the top. So I'm really excited to talk with that about you, touch on a couple of projects and find out how you do it. But first, I always like to ask people, what were your first memories or experiences with photography? How did you get into this in the first place?
Well, my first memory was finding my brother's darkroom kit in the cellar and the wonder of processing film and printing. But I never really got interested in photography until I was at art college, at Liverpool College of Art, when I didn't feel that photography really was an art form, and I kind of looked down on it. And I did illustration, and I was using photography to shoot the bits that went into illustration. And I was walking along the street in Liverpool, and I came across a burning end of terrace shop, and the fire brigade were there, and it just looked really cool. And I was so excited that I walked into the burning shop. I mean, I can still remember today the crackling timbers above my head. And the firemen, of course, big Liverpudlian burly guys, they all started shouting at me. And I took these amazing pictures, and then I got the bug.
Okay. That's got to be a direct line from that to some of your metal work pictures.
Sparks. The more sparks you give me, the happier I am, yes.
Yeah. So that's an amazing story. And so that was you kind of hooked then once you saw it?
Yeah, it was a difficult transition from illustration to photography. Liverpool didn't have a photography course, and they threatened to throw me out. Mm-hmm. I explained to them that they taught me to paint with a mop and with a burnt matchstick, and what was the difference between that and a camera. And then, well, yeah, they let me carry on, but I had to do life drawing every Tuesday evening.
Okay.
But I'm still not very good at life drawing.
So I just was in an art gallery in Edinburgh a while ago, and there was a David Bailey show on, and I wanted to go in and see that.
Yeah.
And it's, it's really good. Obviously, what he does is what he does. But when you go past the paintings, it's just almost embarrassing to be a photographer when you see how people can paint or draw. But you don't feel like photography is lesser than illustration?
No, not anymore. No, not at all. No.
Mm-hmm. So from there, from college, where did you go after that? Did you go straight into working as a photographer?
Well, I got the John Moore Scholarship. I got a good degree. And I took a year out, and I traveled to Saudi Arabia by truck, wow. doing a documentary, which was a complete failure. I learned more about changing truck tires and finding bread and speaking Turkish than photography. And I really felt that I had to earn a living when I came back. I'd worked very hard during my degree, and it had kind of worn me out. And I had a very good friend, and he wanted to set up a design studio, and he wanted me to be the photographer. And so we came to Leeds, and we set up a tiny little studio. We didn't really know what we were doing. And it went on for about 2 years. And then my friend, basically, he couldn't handle it. He didn't enjoy it. And I have to say, I didn't really enjoy it very much myself. And I met two well-known photographers, Derry Brabs and Bob Stone, and they were advertising photographers, and they asked me to be a studio assistant. So I closed down my business, and I went to work as a studio assistant. And that's where I really learned what I was doing. I learned to shoot on 5.4. I learned to use flash. I learned how a proper photographic studio works. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. It sounds interesting. I always feel people who have had that experience must learn so much. So what kind of work were they producing in those studios?
Well, we did pretty horrible work, really. We did Christmas hampers, we did catalogues, we did furniture. Okay. We just, it was nothing very artistic at all. Mm-hmm. And it was hard for me to do it. Eventually I was made redundant because of the recession that came, and I set up by myself.
Okay.
So I was fortunate. I had a house where I had some old buildings, and I did the buildings up, and then I made my own studio where I did exactly the same thing, I have to say.
Okay.
More Christmas hampers. And I remember the client being really cross with me because I would say, well, why don't we do it in a more interesting way? And he would say, well, No, they just want to count the bloody tins.
Yeah.
And I did that for a long time. I wish I hadn't, but that's what I did.
Yeah, but that's the job, isn't it? I mean, it's not the job to do it more interesting on that one. So, looking back then from this sort of end of your career, what can you feel like you really learned there that carries through with you?
Oh, well, it's the discipline. It's discipline of shooting large format film, correct lighting. It's just the way that you have to do it. It has to be perfect. And I still use that discipline today. And, I work with some good assistants and I expect them to have that same discipline, which generally they do. It's really good. And I think they get that from me, that it's all very well, doing these really interesting jobs that I do, but they've got to be perfectly done.
Yeah. So, and yes, that sensibility for sure comes with the large format film work, because you have to be, I guess, very meticulous before you even think about pressing the button.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you don't have that many choices, you chances. I remember shooting in a car factory on 5:4 film. I'd get up at 5 a.m. and load, 100 sheets of film. And transparency as well. And I was shooting in the car factory along the line, and everyone had to wear the correct overalls and everything. The art director was behind me, and occasionally one guy would keep popping out wearing like a Dennis the Menace outfit, and I'd say, I'm always very polite, and I said, please, keep out of the way. If you haven't got the correct uniform on, then just keep out of the way. And then he would pop out again, and I'd shoot a sheet of film, and that was ruined. And I knew I only had 3 sheets of film available for this shot. And then I'd shoot my second sheet of film, and there he was again. And I shot my third sheet, and there he was again. And so I picked up the dark slide and I threw it at him.
That's great. And so when you're working in that time, before digital, you're using light meters, presumably?
No, I never used the light meter.
Okay, so you just had a feel for it's going to be F whatever, or?
Well, I was spending £18,000 a year on film and Polaroid.
Okay.
So I knew what I was looking at. And, of course, I had Polaroid. So, but I was only ever allowed 3 Polaroids per shot. After that, I was paying for it. Client would pay for three sheets of film. That was it. And so you had to be very accurate. You had to know what you were doing.
So, and you still work in that way, more or less, with those parameters, or a little bit more relaxed now?
Yeah, a bit more relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't shoot a great deal. I mean, on a good day, I might shoot 600 frames.
Okay.
So it's not massive.
Yeah. And then from that frame count, how many images are you really getting out of that?
I would expect to come away with 25 to 30 pictures from a day's shoot. In the old days, shooting on 5:4, I remember being in a meeting with a client, and the client said, how many pictures are you going to shoot for us a day? And I said 6. And I got the job. I mean, today you can shoot a lot more. I mean, I always shoot tethered, so it's a bit like using a Polaroid. So it has that accuracy, and I'm very aware of what I'm doing.
Yeah. So when you get set up you're going to set up for a shot, you now have a process of kind of putting things together gradually in the shot. So,
oh yes, I'll build pictures. It's not about taking pictures; it's building them. So I often do recce's before a shoot, so I'll know what I'm looking at. I mean, often clients will pay for me to go on a recce. I do have to argue the case quite a lot, but you do need to plan a shoot. I will do pre-visualization, so I'll sit down for a couple of hours and visualize the whole shoot and how I want the pictures to be. It never works out, but it gives me a starting point.
A lot of your work is for picture libraries. And I don't know if most people really know what that is. Could you give me an overview of that sort of business?
Well, the way it started was that in the 2008 crash, all my work disappeared because I was doing mainly annual reports by that time.
Okay.
And I was headhunted by a photo library called Cultura, really nice guy called Ashley Johar. And he asked me if I could do the industrial photography that I had been doing for my clients for the library, because there wasn't a lot of that kind of work. And so I made a commitment to do that. We're now 13,000 pictures in. So these pictures, they're done as a collaboration with whoever it may be, an engineering company, steelworks, wind farm, whatever. And you have to have legal property release from the client. You do it. I do it completely free for them. Sometimes we do a mix of commission and library, but generally these people that we work with, they just get free pictures, and they can use them within their own company. So for that purpose. And then the pictures are, they're checked for content, they're checked for quality and logos. So all logos have to be removed. And then they're syndicated out to various other libraries. So they go to Getty and Shutterstock and all the big libraries. And then people buy them. A few years ago, people would buy them for a lot of money. And nowadays, of course, they don't pay as much. They've developed new business models, which are not quite as favorable for photographers. I did become probably the world's top selling industrial photographer at one point. It's still a good living for me because I have a big collection. I am still shooting library work, and my work is now syndicated by Image Source, and we're still continuing, but we don't spend a huge amount of money on that. There is a spin-off because often advertising agencies are buying my pictures, and then they find that they're buying just this one photographer's pictures. And so they say, well, who is this photographer? And then they get in touch with me, and then they commission me. So there's a huge spin-off. So it's like a massive advert, really, for me. But my work is done well because it is specialist content. That's the thing.
Yeah, there was a couple of things I was going to pick up there. It is, I can't imagine there are many people doing exactly what you do with the type of industries that you're doing. So it does make you a real specialist. And this style of the work is quite distinct as well. Like I've been following your work for a long time, but I can spot your picture when it comes up somewhere. And so I can imagine how, people start to think, oh, who is this guy that we're always buying the pictures from? I can understand that. So if you're going in for a library shoot, then it's a collaboration between yourself, the client or the premises the business that you're going in to shoot, and then is the library, or is there an art director from the library involved as well? Do you shooting to the library's needs as well as the client's needs, if you see what I mean?
Nowadays, I just do it for myself.
Okay.
I do have an art director assigned to me, and she's really good, but she's involved with other things, and they know that I am very experienced at what I do, so it's not necessary.
Let me ask about the light industry section of your website, okay? Because this, for me, it's like your signature kind of style. Let's define what light industry is for people before we get into that.
Well, light industry is usually small engineering works. It's just not heavy industry. There are not as many sparks and not so much fire. It's the only way I can determine it, really.
Okay. So you've got people in workshops, manufacturing, fabricating things,
Yes.
hands-on with handleable sized things, more or less, I guess. I work in these places frequently, and they're often the one. Maybe it's just the ones I go to, but they're untidy, they're grubby, and which is understandable for the kind of work it is. But your pictures manage to make them look so neat and clean and uncluttered, and there doesn't seem to be anything there that doesn't need to be there. Usually, there's all kinds of stuff going around in the background. Um, how do you start with that? I mean, if you're going into a job, do you start yourself with that pre-visualized shot list that you have?
Yeah, so I'll go and visit a small company. Maybe they make, I don't know, vibratory cleaning equipment or something. And I'll go and have a look round, and I'll ask them to show me what they do, how it works, all that kind of thing. And then I'll do some reference pictures, then I'll start pre-visualizing it. I'll go there and, I'll go back to do the shoot, and then I'll use my lights, really, mainly. Mm-hmm. It's mainly about light. And it's about depth of field, so a lot of my shots are very shallow focus, and they're concentrating on the activity rather than the background. So I won't produce any pictures that got dark, gloomy factories. It's not how you want to see industry. I'll do whatever is necessary to stop that happening.
So I've noticed that sometimes you'll have a light shooting up into the corner or up into the ceiling in the background. Is that just to brighten that up and take away that grimy feel?
Yes, absolutely. That's really what it's doing.
Okay. It's nobody would notice it, I don't think, other than a photographer. But
yes.
It's a really good way of doing it. It can just take away, the griminess on the wall or whatever. Okay, so we kind of touched on it before, but the rate of shooting that you do, like, so you're shooting, say, 20, 25 images a day. That is kind of a lot of work, I think, to be quite meticulous about it as well. You must be in a pretty good flow of, I mean, obviously you're very experienced, but do you find that you get into the flow of creating your pictures quite easily?
Oh, yes. After I've done my first shot of the day, away we go. It's I do have a certain way of looking at my shoots. It's like a dream, really. I have the camera in my hands, and all I'm focused on is what's in front of me and what's coming next. I quite often find I forget people's names. It's very difficult working with models because I'm busily working with my visual senses.
And so do you have assistants with you? What other crew come with you on a shoot?
Always an assistant. Sometimes an art director. That's about it.
Okay. I was just because I was talking to a food photographer the other day, and he's working at kind of the advertising kind of higher end of things. And the way that he described his work was he just kind of presses the button more or less. So he's got, digitechs and assistants and stylists and everything. So I was wondering how that shakes down for you, because when I'm in a location like the ones we're talking about, it's just me, So you're a bit scrambled sometimes. So I just wonder how you keep it efficient for your own train of thought.
It's really important for me to have a good assistant. I bounce ideas off him or her all the time. It's magic. It's something that's going on in my head. It's just, I'm on a roll, and I'm in command. I mean, I very rarely let the client change what I'm intending to do.
Okay. That must be a great position to be in. Being a specialist, I guess, allows you to have that kind of stature in the shoot, I would imagine.
Yes, absolutely. There are certain things that I will say no to a client. It's not a good idea. Sometimes they're insistent and we'll do it, and then he'll look at the laptop and he'll say, yeah, you were right.
So that process then of shooting tethered, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, but it's a really good way to kind of slow things down, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So I really liked what you said earlier about building pictures. I thought that is such a great way of saying it. So what's this first block in that in that building then? Are you framing on the process? Are you thinking where the person's going to be? How do you get started? I think that's what I'm getting at on building a picture.
So I will walk around and I'll see something, and then I'll look at it and think, well, how can I improve this? So I'm working on composition first of all, and then I'll introduce people, and then they start to interact with whatever process is going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I can say really about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a difficult thing. It's something that goes on in my mind.
And so would you have the camera in hand to do that initial kind of finding where you're going to be and then lock it down?
Yeah, sometimes I'll just wave the camera about a bit, have a good look, and then I'll pop it on the tripod. And that fixes me. That it's not about holding the camera still.
Mm-hmm.
It's about fixing the shot. And sometimes I'll shoot different elements. So I might shoot the people in different places. Or if the process, a big piece of molten steel is coming through, I'll shoot that so that then I can stitch it in later. Because quite often my pictures may be made up of several different pictures.
Okay, so you've just brought that up about the molten steel. I was really keen to ask you about that project because I don't know if it's one shoot or if you do this, maybe you do this every weekend, but there's in the heavy industry section, it's like a metal works with pouring metal, lots of molten metal. I was really interested in that project. Can you give us an overview or set the scene for what I'm talking about there?
Well, I wanted to illustrate steelworks. I wanted to illustrate pouring, molds. They have a press. I don't know, it's 1,000-ton press, which then aligns the molecules of the steel. It makes it stronger. They make all sorts of massive bits of steel, and it's very attractive. Anything with shanty town, or all sorts of interesting things. And then that experience comes into play when you get into steelworks, because you can't shoot tethered, you can't use flash, you can use your tripod, I suppose, some of the time, but mostly it's documentary. And It would have been much harder to have done on film, but nowadays with digital, there's a huge latitude in your files. And I've learned how to draw the best out of the files. So it is more, part of my work is documentary, just straightforward.
I guess over the years you build different experiences and different skills, and it's just for deploying them at the right moments, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And you need to know when to shoot handheld without flash, just in a documentary style, and when to polish your pictures using loads of flash.
Okay, I was quite interested to ask you about this job at Heathrow. Maybe it was it a job for Menzies, or?
Yes, it's work for Menzies. Yeah, I have done one at Manchester, which was a library project, and then commission. I've now done 2 shoots for Menzies at Heathrow. I've also worked for the Heathrow expansion project as well. But the recent, that was shot in November, the most recent work, which meant going airside and also portrait people working under the aircraft, doing all the things that you never see when you're a passenger.
Yeah. And those are the staff that you're photographing?
Yeah, they're all real people.
Okay. So that seems like a job that would have a lot of forms to fill in and a lot of...
Yeah, you have to have special insurance. Menzies did some of the work for me, but everybody is model released. I fortunately had a member of staff who came around and released everybody. But it is a problem if everything, you do this great shot and then the person disappears because they've only got 45 minutes to turn the aircraft around, and you don't get that person released, that can never be used. It's a problem.
Okay, so where is the blend on that job between the documentary and the setting things up, more staged kind of approach?
So everything out on the tarmac was shot in a documentary style, maybe just with a reflector. The weather was never very good, actually. It's often very difficult. And then everything in customer facing, which would be people taking your passport, checking in your luggage. It was shot mostly into the laptop. We were given a whole aisle where nothing was going on. So you have to be very careful not to get mixed in with the public, people tripping over things. And then some of it was shot in a hybrid way, which is my assistant being a light stand and me shooting just into a card and watching the back of the camera. So it's a mixture of those things.
So you're actually working with those guys airside when they're really turning a plane around. So
yes,
I guess they don't have time to hang about. You have to be quick. You don't maybe have the luxury of positioning other vehicles and whatnot.
No, not at all. I did shoot quite a lot, and there was a fair amount of wastage. It's wasted because maybe it just doesn't look right, or it's the wrong vehicle, and sometimes you've got competitors' vehicles in the shot. Quite a lot of shots were lost because of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting work. I've been able to go airside here to shoot a couple of helicopters taking off, and I just felt like there's not much I can do here, other than stand here. I couldn't really move. well, that goes into the camera. Like there's little kind of hooks almost, they worn down, and then the cable just starts to fall out.
So my D850, everyone says this, my D850 came with a special clip that stops your cable dropping out. And if you refer back to your camera manufacturer, you may find that they actually do have one. But actually, my cameras have just a short USB cable coming out of them, which stays in there permanently. So I'm never unplugging and plugging on the camera.
Okay, so you're not just wearing that thing down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's a great idea. So I'm just interested in the workflow of that. So that goes into the laptop, and then you take it back to the office, and you have to transfer it over, or?
Yes, so it goes into my big machine, and it gets backed up, and all the usual things. There's always 3 backups, and then I start working. So I'll make an edit, the usual kind of thing that photographers have to do. I hate doing edits, absolutely hate it. So once my edit is done, it goes to the client. They can choose their pictures, and then it comes back to me, and I start working on it. I do spend days. There's a job I'm working on at the moment where I'm processing out 2 frames of every shot. One frame is different from the other, and then I'll paste them over each other, cut out the people. Sometimes I need a background. Say I'm doing a portrait of somebody, I need a background of loads of fire or something, sparks and interesting things going on, which I can't get while I'm doing the portrait. Camera goes on the tripod, and then I'll shoot the portrait, then I'll shoot the background, and later, when in post-production, the 2 will be married together.
Isn't that fun? You enjoy that?
I do very much. It takes me a lot of time. But I have a purpose-built studio with a purpose-built digital darkroom, and in a lovely country environment. And so it's nice. It's a direct contrast to what I do when I'm shooting.
Okay. Just wondered if you have anything in your camera bag or your kit that you bought, you thought it was a good idea, but it's never seen the light of day.
Well, I think it might be the 17 to 35 zoom, terrible lens, which I hardly ever use. Or is it 16 to 35? I can't remember. It's one of the, I've had both, and they've both been horrible. So, yeah.
So you would prefer, sorry to get nerdy, I hate to talk about gear, I feel like a nerd, but would you use the 12 to 24 rather than the 17 to 30?
I don't have a 12 to 24. It's too big for me. So I would go down as low as 20 millimeter.
This takes us to a round I call double exposure. And I'm going to ask you about a picture that I'm really interested in. And I'd like to hear the story behind it because it looks like a fun picture. And then I'll bounce it back to you to see if there's a particular thing that you remember from your photography journey, or just a great experience you've had, or a great photo. So there's one with, I don't know, something must be being poured. There's a dozen people or so around.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm interested to hear you talk about this one because I've got a feeling about it. But you know the picture that I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. This is pouring, I think, 100-ton mold, pouring it into the mold. So this was one of the very first Steelworks library shoots that I did. And I had a female assistant with me, and we set up the camera early in the morning. And it was very cold and very, very dirty, and she was a bit frightened. And they came with a massive flask full of steel, I think about 20 tons of steel. And they started to pour it. And they're standing in the sparks, aren't they? They're standing close to it. And it wasn't that interesting at the time, just one pouring. And I was able to get my first exposure correct on the first pouring. But then I realized they were going to do another 5 pourings. So the picture is actually a composite of about 3 pictures. And there were maybe 10 people in that shot, but actually I think you see about 20 people. So they're composite as well. And so I was able, after my first shot, I began to realize that it would be more interesting as a composite. And so I started to plan it. So the camera never moved all morning, and we got colder and colder. And it was drizzling sort of dirt and rust and metal on us. It was quite safe where we were. But it was not a great experience. And then when they finished the last pour and I knew I'd got my shot, they disappeared and I couldn't find the people which I needed to release. And so I was a bit horrified. They all went home because it was the end of their shift. And so I went to see the chief exec and I said, look, I've got this great picture, and I showed it on a laptop, and he said, yes, it's amazing. I said, but everyone's gone away. He said, oh, it's not a problem. And he took me to the canteen and he signed up 20 people because they all had their masks down, so we didn't know who was who.
Yeah. But you still have to have the release for them, even though you can't identify.
Absolutely. Every human being, every part of the human being. Yeah.
Okay. I had a feeling that was a composite. I don't know if I must have read that on your website or something.
It's possible, yeah. I've talked about it somewhere or other, yeah.
Yeah, but that's just so much of the fun process of what we do.
Yes.
When you're there and you're trying to get a picture and then you think, oh, maybe I could do this. And somehow you're drawing on other experiences from before and pouring it into that moment. It's so much fun for me. I really like that shot anyway, but adding that you've had a bit of fun with it, it makes it even better for me.
Well, the possibilities are endless. You can make anything.
Okay, let me ask you, Monty, is there a particular picture that stands out of your many, many thousands, or an experience, anything that stands out as a great story?
Probably the coal mine, the deep coal mine. I actually went down twice. I originally did a commission shoot for UK Coal, and they asked me, would I go down the coal mine? And of course, my wife didn't want me to go. And I was just a bit nervous. There are quite a lot of shots where I've been really nervous about doing something. But I said, okay. And so we arrived at the coal mine. It's Kellingley Pits, long closed now. And we had to get changed into special gear. And that means underwear. So there I was, getting changed into like a vest and underpants in blue British Coal logos. And I realized, maybe I'm a miner now. We put all our gear on. We had to have training in a respirator and use your light and everything. And then we went down in the lift with the rest of the miners, and it's 8,000 feet underground. And it's 90 degrees underground. It blows a gale because they have to pump air round the coalface so that the methane doesn't come back into the mine. It's really, really scary. I don't know how they ever did it. 8,000 feet's a long way. And you can feel your ears popping. And you get on a train and you go for 45 minutes underground. And then you get to the coalface, and they had the most incredible coalface that was nice and straight. It's one of the best ones in the country. And this machine was cutting into the coal, great whirling cogs and so forth. And then they had pit props, hydraulic pit props, that moved. They walked forwards as the machine walked forwards, and then they dropped the roof behind them. So all the time you could hear the crashing of rock. It was just incredible to do.
Mm. So, yeah, you were apprehensive about that. Is it safe? It's as safe as it could be.
Yeah, it was pretty safe, absolutely. I would never do anything that was reckless.
Photography-wise, how hard is it to work there?
It was really difficult because I had a camera, and that was a very dangerous thing down a coal mine. And so we had to take a circuitous route round the mine to actually get to the coalface. So we were always upwind of the methane. And that really restricted us to one place only. The camera stayed in a Pelly box all the time until I needed it. We had some lights, some LED lights, which lived in big clear plastic bags and were gaffer taped up, so there was no air could get into them. And my assistant actually held the light just to the left of the shot. And yeah, it was very, very hard to do. I just shot into the card and hoped for the best, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm. So were you there to get that one shot, or were you able to shoot a bit?
Yeah, I shot some portraits of miners and some machinery. There wasn't really much else to do. The miners were not very happy with me because I made them late to come off shift. But that's another story.
Well, it's amazing. For me, photography has brought me to these great experiences, like being on ships that you have known, or if you're in a dry dock. I don't know if you've ever been in a dry dock.
Yeah, underneath the oil tanker with the propellers. Absolutely.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. Places that we never would have found ourselves.
Well, that's the wonder of it. I mean, I was always a bit of an explorer. I was always into doing interesting things. And that's how I spent the rest of my career.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's bring it to the quick fire round. This round is called Motor Drive. It's just a few quick fire questions to bring us to the end. Here goes. Wide angle or telephoto?
Wide angle, but only down to 35 millimeter.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. Expensive lens cloth or the corner of your shirt?
Sorry to say, it's an expensive lens cloth. In fact, every single lens I have has its own lens cloth.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is organized. So you wouldn't be buying into my idea of a shirt with a lens cloth material on the corner?
That would be a good idea, yes. Yes.
But you would need a different shirt or a different part of the shirt for each lens?
Yes.
Okay. If you use emojis, what's your favorite emoji?
Oh, it's got to be a heart.
Okay. What's a weird thing I can find in your camera bag?
Okay, in my flash box, I have a little rubber that model railway people use to clean the tracks. And this is a really useful piece of kit for cleaning the contacts of your flash packs. Okay.
Where can I find this? Because I feel like I want to get one.
You can get it on Amazon if you just Google model railway track cleaning rubber. That'll do it.
Because I'm having that problem at the moment. My contacts in my hot shoe are a bit grubby.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a photographer that is someone you really look up to, or someone that you think we should all know about?
Yeah. Eugene Meatyard.
Okay.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
Well, that's tragic, really. He came from Kentucky, and he took the most interesting and amazing pictures, mostly with children wearing masks.
Okay. So what kind of era are we?
60s, I think.
60s, okay. Okay, we'll look that up, and I'll put that in the show notes for everyone to check out.
Okay, yeah.
Last one. When do you feel at peace with the universe?
Okay, so I have 2 donkeys, and sometimes on a stormy night, and there's a weather vane on their stable, and on a stormy night, the weather vane goes around and around, moves about, and makes a squeaking noise. And I love to sit in the straw in their stable and listen to the noises.
That's cool. So that's just a peaceful place that you can be?
Yes, I've had donkeys for a long time. I'm very fortunate to have enough land to have donkeys. Someone in the pub actually palmed them off on me. But nowadays we foster them for the donkey sanctuary. So we don't actually own the donkeys, we just look after them. We have donkeys because they are just amazing creatures.
Mm-hmm. And do they take a bit of looking after, or are they quite...
Yeah, they do take quite more looking after than you might think, yes. And I can see them from my studio window, and sometimes they bray at me, and Yeah, they're very special creatures.
Great. This is so awesome. Okay, I'm going to thank you for your time, Monty.
Oh no, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, you're welcome. I hope everyone checks out the work and can appreciate, because you kind of make it look easy, but I know that it's not as easy as it looks to just get things just so and add the humanity that you do. So I'm such a fan of your work, and I'm really, really grateful for your time today. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Follow Monty on Instagram and check out his website. Links to everything we spoke about are in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, then check out my conversations with Craig Fraser and Scott Chutino. That's all for now. Take care, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you out there.